Good day, everyone. Our group name is Lost in Translation, and for our presentation, we will be looking into Marc Jacobs' showing at New York Fashion Week 2016. This event sparked unhappiness from online netizens, bringing attention to the issue of cultural appropriation in the fashion industry once again. In Marc Jacobs' showing at New York Fashion Week 2016, predominantly white models strutted down the runway, sporting the brand's newest fashion with their hair styled in colorful foul dreadlocks. Shortly after, photos of the event were posted to official Marc Jacobs Instagram. A flurry of social media backlash and controversy followed, accusing the brand of cultural appropriation. By casting predominantly white models with dreadlocks, he had insensitively profited from the historically oppressed black culture by mainstreaming their style in a manner that was both inconsiderate and inappropriate. In response to this social media critique, Jacobs responded in a now-deleted comment.
Shortly after, Jacobs shared a Washington Post article to his account titled, "The uproar over Marc Jacobs and dreadlocks is ridiculous," with the caption, "For anyone out there who wants to read a well-written, fair and intelligent article on the subject," further exacerbating the situation. Further commenters noted his comments of, "I don't see colour," as avoidance of the issue of cultural appropriation, and considered it a form of privileged ignorance his skin colour afforded him. In addition, there was a negative reaction to his comparison of women of colour using hair straighteners, noting how many only did so because it was a way of conforming to the mainstream standards of fashion. Jacobs later issued more apologetic comments, with the caveat that he was simply referring to hairstyling and texture for his fashion show, defensively claiming he would read and learn, and that it had not been his intention to offend anyone. 3 days after the fashion show, Jacobs posted an official apology. However, the damage to the designer's brand image had already been done. As seen as his initial response, for Jacobs, the use of dreadlocks in the show reflected how he was inspired by and his appreciation of the hairstyle. It is clear that he views his actions not as cultural appropriation, but as art. Jacobs initially adopted the conflict management orientation of competing or dominating, as he went on the defensive. His denials and counterattacks can also be seen as self-face defense strategies, which backfired and escalated the conflict instead. But later in his apology post, Jacobs shifted towards the compromising or conceding orientation, acknowledging his unintentional insensitivity, though he did not apologize for his use of dreadlocks or accept the validity of criticisms leveled at him.
Other parties embroiled in this controversy include hairstylist Guido Palau and the more famous models in the show, such as Gigi Hadid, Bella Hadid, and Karlie Kloss. While they also faced criticism, they appeared to have adopted the conflict management orientation of avoiding withdrawing, as they laid low and refrained from commenting on their complicity in the cultural appropriation of dreadlocks. The appropriation of dreadlocks into high fashion, modeled by white models, shows how white people are afforded the range of motion to adopt black hairstyles, such as dreads and rows, without the punishment that black women get for wearing natural or protective hairstyles in society, but most especially in the workplace. This case can be seen as a form of identity conflict. Jacobs' inclusion of dreadlocks in his show was understood in different and incompatible ways by himself and his critics. The key issue here is whether dreadlocks can be removed from their racialized connotations and links to, for instance, black culture, and seen purely as aesthetic objects.
While Marc Jacobs is definitely entitled to defend and explain himself when accused of cultural appropriation, perhaps an understanding of the speech act theory and misunderstanding could help in diffusing or managing the tension. When first accused of cultural appropriation, Marc Jacobs took to answering his accusers via the comment box on Instagram. As seen in the slide, he first mentioned that all who cry cultural appropriation before ending off with how funny people do not criticize women of colour. It gives the impression of sarcasm and highlights his perception of the double standard occurring. However, blacks, who may already have prejudices and biases against their whites, may have misinterpreted the sarcasm on a greater intensity than had they listened to this comment face-to-face or verbally, thereby aggravating the situation. Instagram is a flat channel that pictures and comments transmit verbal communication only. People with different upbringing and heritage could interpret the words of verbal communication.
Perhaps Marc Jacobs could have capitalized on Instagram to display his research on the culture, thereby appreciating and not appropriating it. As of Instagram, one of the ways is to show snippets of interaction with different people belonging to African American culture. Secondly, upload photos on Instagram introducing people from African American culture groups and their thoughts on the upcoming collection. As such, it illustrates the respect that Marc Jacobs has for the sanctity of the different cultures and not just disregarding them or favouring the dominant culture. In addition, Marc Jacobs could perhaps consider coloured celebrities such as Rihanna and Beyoncé to weigh in on the issue of culture appropriation. Given the heritage and popularity of these celebrities, it is of the belief that these celebrities' words carry weight and be able to influence their social media followers positively. This is a tough issue to suggest solutions, especially coming from an outsider with no prior first-hand experience and understanding of the tension. We will not attempt to suggest any concrete solutions to prevent oversimplifying and glossing over contentious points. However, our purpose is to highlight that while cultural appropriation is a problem here, the underlying tension and historical baggage between whites and blacks may have had aggravated and magnified the problem. Through this case study, it is evident that the conflict could have been resolved with less tension if more time and effort is invested into the communication between Marc Jacobs and his target audience about his collection. With that, we end our presentation and the following slides are our bibliography. Thank you for your time.